As the mayor of the town of Clayton, I'd like to call this regular town council meeting to order. I ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we give you thanks for the many blessings of this day and the season that we celebrate. We ask, Lord, now that you be with us as we proceed with the business for the town of Clayton. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
No adjustments this evening.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next is your consent agenda.
Move we approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next are the administrative items and the advisory board appointments.
Mayor and Councilor, we had 6 advisory boards with several upcoming terms expiring. The vacancies were advertised, applications were received, and interviews were held. Tonight, for a recommendation for appointment, Board of Adjustment, Rebecca Berry, Marty Bizzle. For Planning Board, Jody Dupree, Derek Applewhite. Library Board, Lucy Bonacci. Recreation, Travis Crowder, Emily Bedingfield, Natasha Ellis-Smith. Public Art, Kristen Ryan, Howard Manning, Kathleen Nobles, Angie Bryan, and Joe Slayton. And Fire Advisory Board, Christy Dean.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Questions or comments? If not, I'd
like to make a motion that we approve the recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the recommendations to the advisory board appointments. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. And motion carries. Up next will be our employee introductions. Give the floor to Greg Nelson.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Rich. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to introduce our new facility technician, John Zamaripa. I've been practicing that name all day. So, John comes with us with 9 years of experience as an installer for Lowe's Home Improvement. He also has 5 certifications in computer skills and a biological science degree from the NC State. John also is a family man. He has 5 children. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce Jay-Z.
Hello, I'm John Samaripa, Jay-Z for short. The original Jay-Z, mind you, the original. I was Jay-Z before that Jay-Z was ever about. Like you said, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. And of course, if I can help anybody, please let me know.
Awesome. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay, next we're going to jump into public hearings. Our first public hearing is 2022-166 RZ Clayton Dental.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. Before you, we have a proposed rezoning from a planned development mixed-use area off of Pritchard and Riverwood Ranch Road. The applicant is seeking to rezone this to highway business. We feel that this is in line with the future land use map because it shows a neighborhood mixed-use district over this area, and we believe that the B3 zoning district would be accommodating to the future land use map plan. It's approximately 2.15 acres, currently vacant, which is why it's also requiring rezoning, because the planned development mixed use is no longer a accepted zoning district in the town of Clayton. Here we can see the neighboring zoning districts across the street. We actually already have a B3 zoning, so we can see here that that would be in line with that. And we also, along with the planned development mixed use area to the east there, there's a, it's hard to see in this because it's a zoning map, there is a Food Line and other shopping centers already present there. The proposed zoning map, which shows that area there as a B3 if you were to approve the rezoning tonight. Here's that neighborhood mixed-use overlay that can be found in the 2045 comprehensive plan there. And that little outline parcel is what's being proposed for the rezoning tonight. We find that it is consistent with different parts of the 2045 comprehensive plan, goal land use 1, policy 1.1, strategy 1.11. We find that it also is in line with policy 1.3, which it conforms to land use maps, and then policy 1.6, which is important because it promotes location and intensity of development that will help mitigate traffic and other congestions along major thoroughfares throughout Clayton, which we know is all a major issue right now. So by providing these neighborhood centers, we're really hoping to give people the stuff they need while also kind of reducing the traffic demands. Just to remind you that if you do approve this zoning, anything that is allowed and permitted in the B3 zoning district would be permitted here. Staff recommends approval of this proposed zoning district, and the planning board also recommends approval, outlining here that they find it's consistent with the future land use map and the goals listed in the 2045 comprehensive plan. I'm available for questions, and the applicant is here to answer questions as well.
All right. Any questions for staff? All right, if not, this has been noted as a public hearing, and now I'll open the public hearing, and anyone wishing to speak, please step forward and state your name for the record. All right, no one wishing to speak, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the council for their discussion. Clerk, at this time, do we want to handle the request to read the letter submitted by Fred Smith Company?
Yes, Mayor, we are just going to indicate that Brian Smith of Fred Smith Company submitted an email this morning in reference to this item, Clayton Dental rezoning. Each of the council members have received a copy, and this will be included in tonight's minutes.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, questions or comments?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve approval of ordinance 2022-12-01.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the ordinance 2022-1201. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you,
sir. Mm-hmm. The next two items on the agenda are quasi-judicial hearings, and I'm going to turn it over to the attorney to give a briefing on what it means to be in a quasi-judicial hearing.
Mayor, members of the board, these are quasi-judicial or evidentiary hearings as they're now referred to. And the distinction between these hearings and the one you just had is that that was legislative where there is discretion. These are fact-finding hearings where you take the evidence presented during the public hearing, you apply it to the required findings in the ordinance, and you make a decision based solely on the evidence presented during the hearing. Witnesses are sworn. The law requires that the decision must be supported by substantial, competent, and material evidence, and that decision makers are impartial. Essentially, you sit as judges, much like court judges in these cases.
All right, thank you, sir. The first item for the quasi-judicial hearing is the Walk at East Village Phase 2 landscaping modification. Oh, yes, and anyone who is going to participate in either of these two quasi-judicial hearings, you will need to get sworn in, and I'll turn it over to the clerk for swearing in.
Anyone wishing to offer testimony, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give is true to the best of your knowledge and belief? And when you come up to speak on your item, please sign the oath sheet. Thank you.
Good evening, council. I'll make my part of the presentation on this first item pretty short. This is a landscape modification for the Walk at East Village Phase 2. It would allow them to omit a number, I think it's 26 street trees from their plan. They have proposed to replant 16 of them elsewhere on the property. The others just would not be planted. And again, this is going through the quasi-judicial process because the original subdivision was approved through a quasi-judicial process. So with that, the applicant is here tonight, as well as, I believe, members of the public as well.
All right. All right, we'll hear from the applicant or any member of the public. All right, and no one wishing to speak, then no need for a rebuttal. Mr. Granis.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Michael Granis. I reside at 215 Beaufort Loop in Clayton, 27527. I am the homeowner liaison to the HOA board for the walk and have worked with the developer to reach an agreement with respect to the modification of the landscape plan. And I also have several homeowners that are here in support of that plan, some of which are directly affected. I want to take this opportunity also to thank the staff, especially the council members and the mayor, who actually came out and viewed this particular situation that we were confronted with. Make a long story short, there was significant concern that in the years to come, there could be some infrastructure damage due to the location of where these specific trees were going to be planted. And that responsibility for repair would have fallen on the homeowners association. And for that reason, the request came forward for the waiver of this. And does anyone have any questions?
Any questions, comments? All right, thank you, sir.
One added comment that I should make too is Holden Barnett has been very cordial and accommodating to be in agreement. At least I think they are, based on my conversations with them. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, anyone wish to speak in opposition? All right, no one wishing to speak in opposition, there's no need for a rebuttal.
Good evening, my name is Paul Gaynor. I live at 212 Cabarrus Way, and I'm one of the homeowners about the trees. What it is, I don't want no tree in front of my house because the foundation over the years will grow under my house, and then I have to pay for it out of my pocket. So that's why I'm here. I don't want no tree in front of my house. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, if not, then There's no need for rebuttal, and I'll turn it over to the council for their consideration.
Mr. Mayor, first off, I guess, disclose that some of us did go out to the site, but it was prior to, I guess, us understanding that this is a quasi-judicial case. Got to meet with a lot of the homeowners out there. They were very cordial and nice and explained the situation. Although I typically am in favor of trees lining the streets because I think it gives a pretty aesthetic. Just in this situation, it didn't make sense. I could see where there wasn't enough space for the trees as they grow. So I have no opposition to this. I'm in favor of with this.
Awesome. You know, I agree completely. I went out with Mr. Granis, walked several streets. Absolutely makes zero sense to have these trees planted in the areas for which it was approved and designated for trees to be planted. It's going to be disruptive to not only the streets, but it's going to be disruptive to homeowner property. And it's actually going to end up costing the homeowner association a lot of money in the future. And for me, I don't think that's the best place we want to see HOA fees going to do repair and maintenance on something that shouldn't have been put down there to start off with. So I'm glad, you know, this is unusual in the town of Clayton that we go through a process like this and things are modified to this degree, but it's well justified and well warranted. And I'm appreciative as well for all council members going out there to take a look. And to, you know, all our friends at the walk for making us aware of this. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. Sorry. I'll make a motion to approve landscaping modification. Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the landscaping modification. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Our next quasi-judicial hearing is 2022-113 SUP, Creekside Townhomes Special Use Permit.
Good evening, council. This is a request for a special use permit to construct 25 townhome units on approximately 4.03 acres, excuse me, located on Barber Mill Road, across from the Grovewood Drive intersection. The existing use of the land is vacant. On your screen here, you'll see the proposed site plan, which has already been reviewed and approved through the technical review committee process. For the 25 townhomes. The proposed architectural elevations that the applicant has provided in their packet is also on the screen. The future land use map shows this area as medium density residential, which recommends a gross density of 3 to 5 units per acre. The proposed project does have a gross density of 6.21 units per acre. However, as mentioned in the staff report, due to its location directly adjacent to high-density residential, as well as some other non-residential uses, staff does see that this could be seen to be in compliance with the future land use plan and does provide a transition area. As future land use plan states, the medium density residential area is comprised predominantly of neighborhoods with housing units that are more urban in character and in closer proximity to commercial services and centers. This area provides transition from the more suburban areas of the town to more developed areas. Next, you'll see the current zoning map as well as the surrounding areas. As you can see, this property is surrounded by a mix of residential and non-residential zoning and uses already. Considerations for the town council when making decision on special use permits. The special use permit shall address specific findings of fact, and the burden of producing competent and material evidence showing these findings of fact are met is on the applicant. All findings must be met for the special use permit to be approved. Town Council shall consider the recommendations in staff report and may approve the special use permit with the proposed conditions, add or remove conditions with the agreement of the applicant, deny the application, or may also send the application back to the Technical Review Committee for additional consideration. The applicant has responded to the findings of fact, and those are both in the application packet as well as on the screen here. So finding 2 is that the application meets all required specifications, conforms to the standards and practices of sound land use planning and the town code of ordinances and other applicable regulations. And then you'll see findings 3 and 4 here as well with the applicant's response. Finally, if Town Council decides to approve this application, staff is recommending the 8 conditions of approval be placed on the application, and the applicant has agreed to all 8 of these conditions. The first 2 conditions are the standard conditions that we place on all special use permits. Third condition is regarding the road improvements to Barber Mill Road. The 4th condition is addressing the requirement for screening any ground-mounted utility or mechanical equipment, with the 5th condition addressing the maximum density, and the 6th condition addressing the dimensional standards for the proposed development. 7th condition is addressing the sustainable high-efficiency products and/or appliances. Again, this is directly related to their wastewater allocation scoring criteria. And then the 8th condition is the architectural standards. One note on this, while they are requesting wastewater allocation, it is below the 10,000 gallons per day that council has to approve, so that will be approved administratively if the special use permit is approved. And with that, I have nothing else. I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant, as well as several of their experts are here to testify.
Any questions for staff? All right. We'll give the floor to the applicant.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is James Todd. I'm with Smith Anderson out of Raleigh, the attorneys for the applicant this evening. Our office is at 150 Fayetteville Street, Suite 2300 in Raleigh. Thank you, staff, for the presentation and the overview of the project. As you heard, this is a 25-unit townhome development proposed on a 4.03-acre lot off Barber Mill Road near the intersection of Grovewood. This property is zoned R10, which requires a special use permit, and that's why we're here this evening. I'm joined by Rob Bailey and Brandy Melcher with R&R Development. We also have several experts in the room this evening for questions that you may have. Josh Renke, a traffic engineer with Ramey Kemp, is here. Jeremy Keeney, civil engineering for the project, and David Lewis with Dickinson Lewis Land Appraisers. So I'll do a short presentation. We'll cover the criteria that have to be met for the special use permit to be issued. And then primarily we're here to answer questions that the council has. I've got some really good folks in the room this evening to help with that. We had an applicant presentation. Do we have a chance to load that into the staff report? Do you? Yeah. Sorry for the delay. It's just a short presentation, but I do think we have some maps that are helpful. It's the creek side. Thank you. So this is a map that shows the site as well as some of the nearby uses that I think is helpful for context. To the north of the property, you have the Town of Clayton Operations Center. There's also a plumbing services use to the northwest, a church to the south, and then the rest of it is a mix of residential, townhomes, and single-family development. And that is part of the context for the comprehensive land use plans, treatment of this property, and also what we view as kind of the transition that this site and this proposed use offers to this piece of property. There is nearby residential, and we'll talk about some of the buffering and other measures that have been taken to mitigate the impact that this use might have. But this is also a natural transition area from primarily residential around the site into Highway 42 to the north, and some of the more commercial and denser uses that are around there. We are proposing 6.21 dwelling units per acre. And as Mr. Howell explained, this is slightly higher than the 3 to 5 units per acre that are recommended for the medium density residential land use under your comprehensive plan. But for those reasons that we just discussed, that transition area, and also the specific design of the site that we'll talk about in a moment, we think that that 6.21 is a good fit for this site, especially as it's located just to the south of the high density residential land use designation in the plan. And before we go too far into the site specifics, I would ask Mr. Bailey to come up. He is a member of R&R Development, and just to talk about his experience and the developer's experience in Clayton and in townhome uses generally.
Good evening, Mayor McLeod and members of the council. Thank you for this, giving us the opportunity to present this to you guys tonight. Like I said, Rob Bailey, 1611 James Franklin Road, Raleigh, R&R Development. I know a lot of new faces here. I know Mayor McLeod for some time. I spent a good part of my early career, 10 years, working for Waltham Group, my uncle Norwood, and my cousin Jim Lee, and another uncle on the other side of the family, Larry Bailey, is the Park and Rec director here for a long time. So Clayton has been a bit of a second home for me. And I think it's important for you guys to know who you're doing business with, and help develop Portofino, Cobblestone, Bristol, Chandler's Ridge, and Bedford neighborhoods in this area. And 2 years ago, partners and I started R&R and a home building company called New Home Inc. And we're just built 60 homes this year, so we're just getting started, and primarily in Fuquay, down in Harnett County, and we've got a project in Smithfield as well. The townhome product that we're proposing here is a 3-story product that we're just going to be building for the first time in downtown Fuquay. And so we're real excited about it. We think it'll be received well here and in this location. Like you said, this is a transitional zone, and the folks that we bought the property from, Barbara Perrone, their office is located behind this, and they're one of our vendors. So it was when they presented this to us about 8 months ago, we felt like this is a good location for townhomes. So thank y'all. I hope this is first of many projects here in my new part of my career. So thank y'all for your consideration.
Just for future reference, it's +1 for Norwood, it's -4 for Jim Lee,
Right.
and it's a +7 for Larry Bailey. So
I'm in the plus.
you are in the plus.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Moving forward, though, be careful.
I wanted to
name
say,
dropping.
forgive me for being related to Norwood, but
Thank you.
I favor Larry, by the way.
There you go.
Thank you. So this is the site plan for the project. You'll see there's 2 features that I think make it a really good fit for this site. The first is that there are wetlands to the northwest, kind of the triangle that comes together near that single-family neighborhood. Those wetlands have to remain undisturbed. That's also where the developer has located a dog park for the use. So the majority of the actual townhomes and the road are located away from that corner, which creates a really good natural buffer away from that neighborhood. There's also a type A 15-foot buffer that is going to run the entire, I guess, southwestern boundary of the property next to the church that we think is a good mitigating tool as well. And then to the east of the property, you'll see to the top right of the site plan is a stormwater pond that will handle stormwater produced on site and also serves to kind of set the townhomes back a little bit from the road to create, again, a little bit of a buffer for the project. There are, as staff explained, 4 criteria that have to be met for special use permits. We'll run through those in a moment. But as the town attorney explained, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. The applicant has the burden of offering evidence to meet those standards. And if we do that, if there's evidence presented this evening that satisfies those criteria, then the town has already made the legislative decision that townhomes are appropriate in the R10 district. If those criteria are met, we think they will be, and we'd ask for your consideration this evening. The first is that the use as proposed does not materially endanger public health and safety. The staff report notes that there are sufficient access and utilities for emergency services. There's also traffic improvements that are going into the site, including a northbound turn lane coming off of the primary road. And as staff noted, and we agree, this project does not materially endanger public health and safety. The second element is that this project satisfies all of the conditions and practices of sound land use planning. The staff report notes that we satisfy all of the development criteria. We've checked all the boxes with the UDO. And in addition to those, the developer is committing to those sustainable, high efficiency appliances and design elements as part of the Duke Energy HERO program, which is a voluntary program. In this case, it interacts with your wastewater allocation, so it's not completely voluntary, but it is going to lead to a well-designed, sustainable project. The third element is that the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining properties. This is an element in North Carolina that requires expert testimony. David Lewis from Dickinson Lewis prepared an assessment of the property value impacts in this case. He submitted a written report that I would like to offer into evidence this evening, and Mr. Lewis is also here if the board has any questions for him. Ms. Holland, I don't know if you want me to offer that up now or save it till the end of the meeting, but we do have a copy of the written report that we'd like to offer into evidence this evening.
Yeah, I would say it's to your advantage to have him come forward.
Okay. Well, Mr. Lewis, if you would come up then and explain your process and any conclusions you may have reached.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm David Lewis with Dickinson Lewis and Associates. We're at 4016 Barrett Drive, Suite 202 in Raleigh. We're a commercial appraisal firm. We do consulting work, all types of commercial work except hotels. We do some DOT condemnation work for municipalities as well as NCDOT and property owners. I am a graduate of UNC with a degree in political science. I've been practicing real estate appraisal and consulting brokerage work since the early 1990s. Let's see, I'm licensed and certified in North Carolina and Virginia. So as part of this judicial hearing, my cause and purpose is to provide evidence, factual evidence, that shows that comparable developments such as this have not had any adverse impacts after they've been completed. So what we do is we try to find residential developments as well as high-density commercial developments or mixed use, obviously in close proximity, location, location, location. And we're able to use Triangle Multiple Listing Service as well as CoStar Analytics to show trends in the sales of properties around it, and then show the evidence of what has occurred. It's factual evidence, again, from TMLS as well as CoStar. So my report includes impact studies on 4 different developments, one being a high-density commercial redevelopment that's right around the corner at 401 East Main Street. This is the Scott Crawford restaurant and retail redevelopment that just occurred. We also then took analysis of Champion West, which is a 23 unit townhome subdivision development. Meadowview, which is off of Shotwell and Old 70. That's a 188 lot townhome development. And then Academy Point. Academy Point's got single families, it's got apartments, and it has townhomes. So we'll take the MLS data that we can do research on the sales around the property a year prior to the onset of development or the completion of development, and then show a year after, subsequent to that completion or ongoing phases. So that's what we've done with these 4 case studies. The evidence shows, which you really can, pick anything in this same proximity. Everything is appreciating in value. The range is basically for the year over year transactions are showing anywhere from 23 to 33% average to median increases in values. So in conclusion, these are just a sampling. There are a multitude of other developments that we could choose from, but again, we try to focus on ones that I'm quite familiar with, either having appraised or worked on some of the land development in consulting work. So all 4 of these I'm quite familiar with. They're all relatively recent and in close proximity, and they do show factual evidence that there are no adverse impacts to surrounding or abutting properties.
All right, any questions or comments? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And then lastly, the final criteria is that this proposal is in line with the town's adopted policies and ordinances. And really the only point of contention here is that this is shown on your future land use map as medium density residential, which is a range from 3 to 5 units per acre. And what we're proposing is slightly more than that at 6.2. It is just over half of what the max density allowed in the R10. But it is still slightly higher and probably more consistent with the high density residential area just to the north of this site. Now, that being said, as staff said, and as we've already talked about, we think this site is a good transition area. We think that that's slightly higher than recommended density is appropriate here, and that this is a good and much needed housing product for the town of Clayton. Care has gone into the design to mitigate the effect of any additional density. We think that buffer area to the west is a really good mitigating factor for the existing single family. And in light of that, in light of the traffic improvements and site design and location and proximity of this project, we think it does satisfy the special use permit criteria. A couple smaller notes. There will be an HOA that will be a part of this project that will be tasked with maintaining these landscaping elements going forward. So it's not just something that's going to be put on the ground day one and allowed to deteriorate. There will be long-term care of the property. There's a number of specific utilities and stormwater questions that if you have any issues or questions about, we have experts in the room to answer them. But otherwise, I would just thank you for your consideration this evening and make ourselves available for questions. Thank you.
What is the facade of these townhomes? What is that? Is that vinyl?
Yeah, so one of the zoning conditions that's a part of this project is that 25% of the front facade has to be masonry. And then there's a list of materials that the developer is allowed to use for the remainder of them. I don't think I wrote all of them down, but I believe the majority is recommended to be hardy plank. And I can reference it in the staff report if we really need to get into the details.
That's good. And I think we should have some more conversation around your traffic analysis to enter into the record.
Sure.
Because that's vague at this moment. Do you have a traffic engineer here with you?
We do. I'd ask Josh Ranke from Ramey Kemp to come up.
Josh Ranke with Ramey Kemp and Associates, 5808 Farrington Place, Raleigh, North Carolina. Registered professional engineer in the state of North Carolina, state traffic lead for Ramey Kemp and Associates. So we were brought on to the team to kind of look at this. This is something that is about 1/20th of the traffic volume expected to trigger what we call a traffic impact analysis by NCDOT guidelines. What I did, just obviously a traffic impact analysis was not required. What we're looking at is kind of what is the trip generation out there? What is the daily traffic on the roads out there? Do we see capacity issues? Do we see any safety concerns? My main thing with something like this is even if it's a low volume generator, which this one is obviously being that small of a percentage of what NCDOT would typically require to consider traffic analysis, is a left turn lane at the site driveway. Once again, one car, waiting to turn left and cars coming from behind it, it can always be a safety concern. So knowing that they not only are providing a left turn lane, but one that is significantly longer, of looking at NCDOT guidelines, treating it like I would treat a traffic impact analysis. We look at what does the NCDOT show in terms of how long that storage needs to be, those sort of things. They're exceeding those with their design that they've got currently. They've been working with DOT on that design. In terms of the turn lane, once again, I kind of looked at this holistically of make sure I'm following the guidelines as if I were doing this as a DOT project and all. The daily traffic is about 140 vehicles expected for this. Once again, DOT would look at a threshold of 3,000 vehicles to consider a study to kind of show magnitude. It's about 1.5% of the traffic that's going along Barber Mill. When you look at the intersection of 42 and Barber Mill to the north, we're talking about 0.6% of the overall traffic there. So it is a low traffic impact. That's why no formal traffic impact analysis was done. Like I said, I've looked at these numbers, pulled up some volumes and all just to kind of get a perspective. Does it seem like there's anything that would be needed? Obviously NC 42 and Barber Mill, coming off of Barber Mill, you already have the turn lanes, the signal there, those sort of things. So those are the things I'd look at. And once again, big one for me is safety. Do you have a left turn lane at the site? Because that is something where they could have to wait for traffic coming in the opposing direction. And you always kind of want to make sure, and like I said, preemptively, proactively, that's something they were considering, even though it isn't a TIA didn't recommend it or anything. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Like I said, sadly, there's no formal. Usually I'm explaining my TIA and why we looked at this, but I'm kind of looking at this afterwards saying what is being required. And like I said, with that left turn lane, I think that checks the box where I'm saying that could be a safety concern, even though it's a very low trip generator. Peak hour traffic based on the IT trip generation manual, you've got 7 trips in that peak hour in the AM and 11 trips in the peak hour in the PM. So it's not a high volume of turning vehicles. But like I said, it is a safety thing when we're saying you could be waiting and make that left. And if somebody's coming up behind you, it's good to get them in a turn lane.
Excellent. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Appreciate it. Outstanding. I really appreciate that and glad the mayor asked you to come up here. But under the finding of fact, number 1, public health and safety. So I'm asking this question just from a general standpoint. So off of your analysis, what would be too much?
What would be too much? Like, I'm sorry.
You said that, and I'm just curious. You said that, hey, this is fine, we're good to go. I think you mentioned 140 vehicles. So what would be, my question would be, is what would be too much?
Well, 3,000 vehicles is what DOT for the daily traffic would require traffic impact analysis. And at that point, we'd sit down with town staff and DOT and say, what intersections do we need to be studying to look at how much of an impact this development has? So it's not a too much thing, because we'd obviously then mitigate the traffic. We'd say if there are deficiencies here, safety concerns there, we'd be looking at, potential other turn lanes at other intersections. So what I'm saying is it is a very low traffic generator, and that's why nothing more formal like a traffic impact analysis was required. So once again, too much is, I've had massive developments where there are just a lot of improvements associated with it. It's a very small amount of trips. What I'm looking at most is the safety concerns, because there aren't the capacity concerns with something that's such a low volume on these roads. It's more of a safety issue I'm considering, and making sure that you have something like a left turn lane at the site driveway. And I'm sorry, does that answer it? Or if I'm kind of missing the mark, let me know, and I'm happy to.
No, you're not missing the mark at all. I'm asking the question actually I'll just say so for something general. But thank you. You're good to go. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess 3,000, like I said, DOT being 42 in their roads, they're not, saying they would love to see that studied and whatever. They have thresholds where they say, here's what it is, it's 3,000 daily trips for theirs. There can be other things, like they have proximity to ramps and stuff like that with major highways and all, but 3,000 is theirs, and we're at 140 daily trips. So like I said, about 5% of what it would take to do a more formal, comprehensive study. You got it. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You good?
Yeah, no, we're finished. We're just available for questions.
Sure.
So thank you for the presentation. I have I have kind of a thought, an idea, but looked over the information. I think this looks like a good product. The way it's being built, I think it is to a standard that I think Clayton would expect. In regards to the dog park, I wasn't sure what type of grading that would need to be done at that particular location, and this might even save the developer some money, but that looks like there's some mature trees over in that area, and if there's opportunity to maybe save those and incorporate it into the dog park. East Clayton has a dog park that has mature trees that are surrounding it, and it provides shade. Hopefully, like I said, it could save some potential money with the grading and stuff. So I don't know if the applicant will consider that as an option or an opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for the question and the comment. One of the goals for this development is to limit the site work and the development activity, obviously to the extent possible, to build what's there, but to leave as many natural site conditions in place as possible. So I'd have to get on the ground and take a look with the engineer, but I know that's one of the goals of the developer, and so to the extent it's possible, it's certainly being considered, and it's going to be a big part of the project going forward.
Okay, thank you. If you consider that, I think that would be beneficial, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, question, so from parking, I saw the garage in the other picture, and I guess you're looking at like maybe with 2 cars, one in the garage, one in the driveway. Is it gonna be parking on the street?
I don't believe the intent is to have any of the parking numbers allocated to the street. There are 50 off-street parking lots provided for this project through the garages and the off-street driveways. So that would be 2 per unit. I'm sure that at some points there'll be overflow onto the road, but 50 dedicated off-street parking spaces are being provided.
Okay, thank you.
The point of his question is we have learned from the past that if adequate parking is not really looked at and evaluated, then there could be potential for parking to be on both sides of the road and my fire truck or a rescue vehicle can't get through there. So do you have a plan for something like that? You have given any consideration to that?
Yeah, I think the 50, if we need to go deeper here, we're right at the edge of what I know about parking and this project.
At least you're honest.
I think the 50 number was part of a discussion with staff and maybe even required. And it is 2 per unit. There'll be some opportunity for the HOA to have rules about who can and can't park on the street. I don't know that we're far enough down the line to have drafted those documents and looked at whether or not it will be permitted. But I think given the number of parking spaces, off-street parking spaces provided, the goal is to have everyone off the road.
Okay. Mr. Thompson.
Would the applicant be amenable to a condition that would limit parking to one side of the street, for limit on-street parking to one side of the street? I ask that because for emergency vehicle purposes, we've, as the mayor said, we've learned from mistakes in the past of vehicles parked on each side of the street, and then you can't get your emergency vehicles up the street. So I just want to, if for some reason, would you be opposed out of the gate to say, okay, if there is on-street parking, it's only going to be on one side?
We could certainly do that. We can enforce that through the HOA and also through some non-parking signs, and we can force it to one side. And I was also just talking to Jeremy Keeney, the civil engineer, and I think we might be able to get, attempt to try to get some off-street for maybe some guests to come in. When you drive in on the left-hand side, there's a stream buffer along there, but I think we have some room where I could get some off-street parking there. We'd be agreeable to that. So. We don't have enough space to actually put a parking lot, but we could have some spaces to turn off on. I'm not entirely sure, Ben, if that's allowable within the code or not, but we could certainly, there's an area there to the left when you drive in that we could either have some parallel parking locations where the bump out or have a 90-degree turn for some spaces.
Good. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Anyone here wish to speak in opposition? No one wishing to speak in opposition. There's no need for rebuttal. We'll turn it over to council for their discussion and deliberation. Mr. Thompson.
I'm comfortable that they met their findings of fact, that they presented expert testimony, and we've not heard anything to contradict anything they've said. I'm encouraged that the applicant is willing to do, allow us to add a condition for parking on one side of the street. If there's street parking at all, they may decide not. But if they do, I'd like to see that as a part of the conditions.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think in the conditions part, if there was some type of thing we put in as far as in conditions, whether it be parking on one side or the parallel parking that he was referring to.
Okay, make a motion. Make a motion.
I move we approve special use permit 2022-113-SUP with conditions and with the added condition of if on-street parking is allowed, then it's only on one side.
Got a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of 2022-113-SUP, Creekside Towns. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Up next under old business is the mass communication data voice budget amendment.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. At the last council meeting and work session, council was given a presentation about a proposed mass communication system. Tonight, we're asking council to approve the budget amendment to put the funding in place, procure and install that system with the estimated first-year cost of $320,000.
All right, any questions or comments? Mr. Thompson.
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance 2022-12-03.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for approval of ordinance 2022-12-03. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is the formal construction contract award for Sam's Branch.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council, Joshua Baird, Engineering Director. Two action items before you tonight related to Sam's Branch Water Reclamation Facility, a budget amendment and a formal award of the construction contract. To date, we've had several milestones, significant milestones related to this project. Tonight's action items will certainly be one of those milestones and significant in the course of this particular project. To my knowledge, it's the largest contract that the town's ever entered into, and I don't know there's anything close to the magnitude of that. So exciting action items before you tonight. Before jumping into some of the details, I would be remiss if I did not recognize some of the consultants, staff, and other folks that really have helped lead this project and get us to where we are today in terms of the project. From the beginning, consultants from Jacobs and Withers and Ravenel who looked at some preliminary engineering and basis of design related to the work and really set out some groundwork for putting the project on the ground. Withers and Ravenel for remediation of the shooting range that was at the site. Also, during the same phase of the project, we had some program management by J.D. Solomon and Corp. Grimes Land Services, land acquisition, who helped obtain some of the easements required for the access road. Water line, Providence Construction, who won the award for the access road, water line, and really early grading work to really get ahead of the project, get some of the site work done. We're really ready for a contractor to come in and begin going vertical on the actual facility itself. From there, Gannett Fleming, who came on board and furthered the design, including some of the initial procurement packages for some of the equipment pipe that you guys have already authorized in previous packages. Utility electrical consultants, UEC, for the electrical design of how to bring power to the site. HDR consultants, who have been acting as the town's owner's advisor and have really been instrumental in the project progress and advising, have some expertise really in the contracting and the water reclamation facility design, who have helped be sure everyone's accountable and the design continues to move forward and is in the town's best interest for the particular design. There's been numerous financial consultants, state legislators, members of the local government commission, our town attorney, their team, Colley Pridgeon, as well as members from Parker Poe have assisted throughout the course of the project, and town staff on so many levels. This project has touched just about every department. Obviously, the water and sewer department, the water reclamation division of that. Economic development has been a huge part of this. The electric department working through design and getting electric over to the site. Parks and Rec, certainly coordination, as we do have a greenway that is right next to the site and working through them. Site plan approvals through the planning department. Finance in terms of funding the project, procurement and contracts related to review of the contracts. The entire engineering department, there's been many staff that have been inspectors, been on the specific site, and then specifically the project manager, Lewis Duffy. He would be in front of you tonight, but he is actually on vacation, enjoying his vacation, so I really wish he could be the one to actually see this final step through, but hopefully I can cover and get the job done. But he's really been the one that has been, he's lived this project day in, day out, and just really shepherded it to this point, and certainly will continue to do that with it moving forward. And all this under the leadership and direction of Town Manager Coppola, and then obviously Town Council for your support and actions up to date to really get us to where we are. I've tried to name hopefully everybody. I'm sure there's some that I've left out, but there's just been so many hands on this project. It's such a large project, and we're certainly thankful for all the consultants, all the team, all the staff, and Town Council for their support. So getting into the details, on November 7th, Town Council approved a resolution of intent to award the construction contract to Thale Construction. So that was pending two items. That was pending the Local Government Commission approval of the debt, as well as the authority to award from DWI, Division of Water Infrastructure, and that's related to the State Revolving Fund loan and the SRF dollars that we have in the project as well. So on December 6th, the LGC approved the debt and the total program, and then on December 12th, DWI issued the authority to award the contract. So staff and the engineer of record recommend formally awarding the construction contract to Thale Construction in the amount of $171,402,550.00. This total program, including all the linear projects, is just shy of a $300 million project. This is a substantial piece of that project and really the vertical infrastructure on the ground. Town staff and the attorney have all reviewed the contract. It's based on standard construction contract and recommend award. Staff request approval of the formal resolution now to award and authorize the town manager or designee to execute the contract documents and any change orders reasonably necessary to complete the project in accordance with the approved program budget. Approval of this will certainly set a course for the project and set a course for the construction to begin work in early January and completion of this 6 million gallon per day facility in mid to late 2025. Completion of the project will obviously replace the existing Little Creek water reclamation facility with a more technologically advanced and environmental sustainability facility. So included in this action item or in the agenda is the budget capital project ordinance necessary to modify the existing capital project fund and really set up the funding based on the entire program's budget such that we can encumber the funds and execute the contract. With that, I'm happy to take any questions on the formal award of the contract, and Robert is here if there's any questions on the budget amendment and funding strategy.
All right, any questions or comments?
I have a couple comments. First off, I want to thank the staff as well. Like you said, I've seen a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put in this project, a lot of sleepless nights. I know it's stressed me out quite a bit as well. As we go forward with this project, in the future, obviously, we're going to have to do this again at some point in time or expand it. Can we just plan ahead, save the money, put the money aside so we're prepared? And like I said, I'm excited that we're kind of getting to this stage, and hopefully everybody will be able to sleep well at night knowing that we've kind of gotten to this point. And thank you.
We good? All right. Thanks, sir. All right, and I'll turn it over to council for their discussion. Mr. Thompson.
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance 2022-12-02, the budget amendment.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for approval of the ordinance 2022-12-02 budget amendment. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Mr. Casey.
I'd like to approve Resolution 2022-99, formal construction contract award.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of Resolution 2022-99. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thanks, sir. Jumping down to staff reports, beginning with the town manager.
Well, a couple things. Thank you, Joshua, for kind of giving a brief history there of the big milestone that we just hit. Subsequent to some of that, after the last meeting, the day after the last council meeting, we did attend the local government commission meeting. We were unanimously approved to go ahead and issue the debt required to be able to enter into the contract, as Joshua mentioned. The next day, on the 7th, we were the hottest ticket in town in the United States. We were the largest negotiated sale in the entire nation that day from a bond sale, which actually worked to our favor. If you look back at the trends over the last several months, we actually hit the lowest dip the day that we sold, so ultimately saving ourselves several $1 million in the long run of total debt service. So that was a win for the town on a project that seems to have had a lot of headwinds blowing in our face. Our winds blowing in our face. We received the authorization to award last week, which allowed us to get to today. Tomorrow, we'll be closing on the $100 million approximately of bonds that were approved and sold on that day a couple weeks ago, as well as we will be closing on the sale of the pretreatment facility before the end of the year with Novo Nordisk as well. So all of those actions have gotten us to the point where we can enter into this contract tonight. So a lot of thanks to all of you up here for riding this ride with us and getting us to this point, as well as all the staff and the consultants that have been working on it. It's been 4 years in the making to get to this point, and I think we'll all be very happy when January comes and dirt starts turning again out there. So excited about that big milestone. Another thing I want to do is just recognize our own Patrick Pierce. I was able to attend Patrick's graduation from Leadership Johnston County a couple weeks ago. That program has been a very good program for the town, and we really hope that we can have more staff go through it here. So again, congratulations to Patrick.
Represent. I said that's the way to represent.
Real quick, couple things coming up. Tomorrow, actually, we'll be doing Christmas with a Cop. Tomorrow, your police officers will be delivering presents in time for the holidays for 9 families. Total of 30 kids will be covered in that. So looking forward to joining them on some of their deliveries tomorrow, but it's going to be exciting for them. It's another great, great service that we can provide. A few dates that I'm going to throw at everybody, just as a reminder. This Friday, 12/23, we are closed before the holiday, as well as Monday and Tuesday, 12/26 and 12/27. We are also going to be closed on Monday, the 2nd, just after the New Year. And then the next council meeting will therefore be Tuesday, the 3rd, because the holiday being recognized on that Monday. So other than that, those are all the updates I have today.
All right. Town Attorney?
Merry Christmas. See you next year.
Thanks, sir. Town Clerk?
No report.
Thank you. Any other staff? All right, now we'll have an update on the Greenway with Jonathan Jacobs.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council, Jonathan Jacobs, Assistant Engineering Director. 2 quick updates for you tonight. I think on the agenda, the Greenways first, so I'll do that one first. But as you recall, back in September, we did a contract amendment to go into phase 2 of the design build contract with Crowder Construction Company for the replacement of 3 Greenway bridges on the Riverwalk on the new Greenway near the Riverwood Athletic Club subdivision. So the time has come. We've gone from 60 to 100% drawing since that time, and the contractor has now been issued a notice to proceed as of December 5th. And there's been some preliminary work to try to minimize the amount of time the Greenway is actually closed. That's been taking place over the last couple weeks. The biggest update for you tonight is that the contractor does schedule or has a planned scheduled closure for January 3rd to close that Greenway for approximately 90 days. The contract does have a limitation of 180-day maximum, but we're anticipating that to be about half based on the schedule that the contractor has provided us most recently. And the contractor has chosen to do some of the preliminary work that has been taking place over the last couple of weeks to try to keep the Greenway open through the holiday while children are out of school and things of that nature, to try to minimize the impact to the residents, as we already have a section further down closed that has been delayed in reopening. So and the other big difference from some of the feedback that we received during the other closure is we worked with the Riverwood HOA to explore a semi-detour of the facility through the subdivision to try to allow a connection for users to continue to maintain. And the handful that have asked have been mostly positive on having that as an option. So there is some signage that has covering on it right now, and those will be uncovered and provide kind of like when you drive through a closure in your car, a similar type detour route for the user of the Greenway.
Awesome. Questions or comments? All right, thank you, sir.
All right, and then the other quick update is for about the last roughly 9 months, really started with planning engineering, working through some community development plan review, plan development software for private development submittals through the town. Most municipalities in the Wake County area utilize an electronic system that allows applicants to process their projects and everything kind of remotely. We're kind of doing a hybrid version of that, which was forced when COVID came upon. We were doing a lot of still hard copy submittals, but we have done some extensive demos, and staff, I think a committee of about 20 people, narrowed down from 4 to 1. So we're currently in contract and scope negotiations with that company. We had a call today to finalize that before they provide kind of their final proposal to us. And I will share that the Johnson County is also doing a similar process, and they have also preliminarily selected the same software. I'll share once we have a contract. It's not finalized yet. So I'm kind of excited to see that we were as close as we are with the county on the, kind of on the same page between the multiple vendors that are there. But just at a high level, it will allow a lot of the feedback that we've received from the development community, as well as our stakeholder group that's been meeting with the chamber, a better user experience with the town. It's much more transparent software, and it will reduce the amount of manual staff time that is required for the process thus far, specifically with fees and other steps of the process that are all manually calculated through Excel spreadsheets and things of that nature that will all be able to be done from your living room couch if you wanted to. Wherever you have an internet connection, you'll be able to log in, answer some questions, and the software will guide you where you need to go and how you need to proceed. Not to avoid, having people come to town hall, but it will prevent you from having to physically come in and submit your application. So we're very excited. I think the development community will be we're very pleased with our chosen software, and implementation will probably take anywhere from 9 to 12 months. It's a process. And I will emphasize, Chief will be happy. One of the things that we're really pushing is we're not developing or implementing this to utilize our existing structure, our existing application processes to build what Clayton will be moving forward. And so we're building it to really shape how we want the process to be. And that involves both the public and staff's involvement. So real increased transparency and reporting, and hopefully we'll be able to provide some more details and maybe a better presentation of what that might look like as we get more into that process.
Awesome. Any questions for staff? Thank you, Jonathan. All right, I'll now open the floor for informal discussion and public comment. Anyone wish to speak? No one wishing to speak, I'll turn it over to council for comments. Sims.
Yes, as we close out, I'd just like to, after my first year here on council, I'd just like to thank both our deputy town managers, staff, our town manager, our town attorney, you, Mr. Mayor, all the council who has helped me, and Heidi and clerk as our town clerk here to just help me get through this first year. I think this first year has been a good year. I always say this, big ships turn slow, but they turn. I feel that we're turning in the right direction, but there's also a book that's called From Good to Great, and it's time for us to go from good to great. To do that, we have to rise up on our expectations, and I hope that we continue to do that as we continue to get better.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Mr. Thompson feels like $1 million tonight, so we're going to give him the floor now.
I'd like to echo what Mr. Sims said. First of all, I want to wish all of our citizens that are out there a very Merry Christmas, and hope that they have a good year ahead. But I especially want to look at our staff and thank them for all of their hard work, and the people that are here every day. And I hope that they get to spend some quality family time this year. And, as we have those 3 days off for Christmas, I hope that they are, that you're all able to utilize those and enjoy those. There's some of our employees who will be working through the holiday, and I want them to know that we recognize the sacrifice that you make for working through all of these holidays. The older I get, I was the first 20 years of my service to this great town was through emergency services, and probably spent more holidays away from home than at home. And the older I get, the more I realize how precious that time is. And, I appreciate every moment I get to spend at home, because there were so many that I couldn't. Another thing that came to mind today, I was thinking, this is ending my 30th year of service to the town. And, 20 years of emergency services and over a decade on this council. And sometimes you get very tired and you think, I'm tired. And then I look at, our people like Chief Barbie out there that's served for almost 50 years in this town, and I think there's some motivation to keep rolling because I've got great mentors and leaders out there that are pushing forward. And as Mr. Sims said, let's continue to take it to the next level. There are things that are coming to fruition now that we made the decision on 10 years ago on the council, and we're just now seeing that progress. So we've got to set our town up for the future and what Clayton's going to look like 10 years, 20 years from now. We can't dwell on the current and we can't dwell on the past. I can say that this year with our new council members has been one of the more encouraging years I've ever had on this council. We've got a very active group. We've got a very in-touch group with our citizens. This is we're not a group of retirees. We're not a group of super young. We're all in touch with the community in different ways. And I look at each council member and I think, man, everybody is so involved. Everybody is out there. You know your constituents. You know their wishes, and you're bringing those back to this group. And I think that's the most important thing. You know, Councilman Casey was making some comments earlier tonight, and I thought, you know, he's representing the people that elected him to serve, and that's so important. And I've seen a year of a great council who I really think are representing the interest of those that were elected to serve, and I'm extremely proud to continue to serve with you and to have you as a part of this group.
Thank you for your leadership. Mr. Casey? It's the second time tonight you didn't raise your hand and I called on you.
I know. I want to echo the sentiments of everyone else. Thank everyone. Hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Look forward to great things coming in 2023. Let's get it done.
There you go. I too want to express my appreciation to our town staff and this whole wastewater treatment facility has been the largest hurdle of my political career and my 4 years as a town council member prior to the 19 as mayor. But we did it, and we jumped a lot of hurdles, and we did a lot of homework, and we had a lot of meetings, and we did everything we did in excellence, and we did it for Clayton, and we are successful. Now, I'm not putting the cart before the horse because that thing's not built and running, but we're close. And, you know, to Jason's point, Lee Barbie is a lot older than all of us, and he's still kicking. So I think we're going to have a good year coming up in 2023. I'm going to offer some kudos to Rich for really living his word. You know, he said months ago, I'll be the best number 2 man you ever had. And now you're the best number 1 man we've ever had, and we appreciate it. And you're getting phenomenal results, and you're building team, and people enjoy working for you and with you. I know we do. And as any good mayor would tell anybody out there in the public, I'm always appreciative for a phenomenal attorney. Thank you for keeping us out of jail. It's wonderful. We do have a bright year in 2022. I want to, Andrea Archer, Councilman Archer, if you're listening, we missed you this evening, and we certainly hope you're going to be feeling better moving forward. So I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say, other than a shout out to the Clayton Rotary Club for a phenomenal Christmas parade. The town of Clayton is extremely appreciative for the efforts of that organization to keep that hometown spirit alive through our Christmas parade. And I just got a text from Andrea who said thank you. Hey, all right. But we do appreciate our good friends at Clayton Rotary, and it's a partnership the town of Clayton has had a lot of respect and appreciation for over 20 years plus. All right. So with all of that being said, is there any other business to come before us? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Good night.